Hello, everybody. Welcome to our webinar. Oh my goodness, I'm so happy. I love seeing all of your names popping on. Today, we are going to be working on this concept that is a real problem. It is happening. I'm going to be talking about the mental health aspect of it. I've got some awesome quotes from doctors and everything. So fun. All right. So, what just happened? Okay. All right. So welcome. I'd love you to tell me where you're from. So good. I see some names on here. We have someone from England. So good. Hello. And yeah, we've got this. Okay. I just missed Michelle, I'm so glad you figured out how to get on here. That's awesome. Sorry, I'm just looking for I had my little cheat sheet and it's missing. So I'm going to find it. All right. So tell me where you're here's the chat. I got a new computer, you all. Oh, Florida. That's where you're from, Michelle. So fun. I have never actually been to Florida, which is very sad because I really want to go to Harry Potter. Really want to go there. Okay. All right. Let me open this. All right. So this is what I'm going to recommend to you all. To get the most out of our webinar, I want to recommend you to go on your phones and turn off the notifications, which I am going to do as I speak. So I just go to notifications and I say, do not disturb. I just put my do not disturb on because I really want to recommend to give you all sorts of love that you're here, that you're taking this time for yourself and that you're helping your brain and you are giving yourself some really amazing tools to help you to just have a better experience right now. Because, okay, I want you to put in the chat, what is the biggest struggle you're having right now with, like even today with Corona? What's really stressing you out? And I really love in my trainings, I love them to be interactive, and I really want you to participate. Okay. So tell me what is probably the biggest isolation from friends. What else? I know a lot of people are having struggles with not being able to see their grandkids. I see Marlene is on here, and that's been like a very big, and I'm sure others of you as well, but not being able to go to the grandkids, especially, vaccine, woohoo, Marlene, vaccinated. Yeah, not being able to help out the way that you'd want to, it's really difficult. Like if you, like even with grandkids, you can't go. You can't go and help with homeschooling even. Being lonely, yeah, not being able to go to our guild meetings, not being able to go and connect with people. And even I find being at Costco or doing my regular errands, I'm not able to interact with people in the same way because we're all masked up. Complete isolation from everyone. Yeah, Trudy's in England and it is extremely locked down, right? Very limited. So this is really taking a lot of, it's really affecting our mental and physical health. And so I'm going to actually diagnose what's happening right now. And it's really interesting because as a life coaches, we understand how we think about our thinking. So when we learn to think about our thinking, then we're able to see what's really going on. So I like to explain it as, you have, when you don't know what to do with something like your house and you're cleaning, you just kind of shove it in the garage or you shove it in a closet or in your basement, a certain room in the basement. when we don't deal with the things that we need to deal with, we put them off, and then those negative thoughts, those things come back, and we don't know like why we're acting the way we are, or what's going on. It's because we haven't been learning about thinking about our thinking and seeing the kinds of results that we're getting. And so I, as a life coach, I help you understand how our brain thinks. We do a lot of brain science and how we're wired and how that's affecting us. So you are in the best place. I'm so happy to have you. Now, we are going to talk about what crisis fatigue is. So, crisis fatigue is when a stressful incident becomes enduring or chronic. So, this is a quote by Eric Zilmer. He's a licensed clinical psychologist and also a professor of neuropsychology and the director. He's at the University of Philadelphia. So the reason for this is that humans are not equipped to deal with extensive periods of stress over long periods of time. Our defense systems are designed to prepare us for short bursts of emergency preparedness. Okay, so this is what I was talking about, was that our defense system is really supposed to just be for short bursts. So for example, if a cougar is like chasing you, you get this like extra boost of adrenaline, and you can get this, extra zap, and you can get going. And, or for example, I remember one time we were driving, and there was someone just came right in front of us. My husband was in the fast lane, and he literally was able to go out. It's like a video game, and he was able to go out and then come across and then back in. And so that's actually how our body is wired. So when you think about our lower brain, we have three, it's called the motivational triad. It's actually what was able to keep us to survive, and it's still intact. But back in the day, before we had houses and grocery stores, we had to stay alive, right? We were always scanning for danger. If there was like a buffalo that was going to charge us, or some like a cougar, or some sort of physical threat. And so we needed to stay alive. We also needed to eat food. So we are actually wired to seek pleasure. So even if we had to eat like a grasshopper or something, we're really hungry, we actually did get a dopamine hit when we ate food. So that actually is part of our wiring. So even if something isn't that tasty, we'll still eat it. And because that actually keeps us to survive. And then also part of the seeking pleasure is with that food like that. And then, so there's seeking pleasure. So we get a dopamine hit when we eat, creating, conserving energy. So like we didn't want to expend more energy than we needed to, because before, when we didn't have a regular source of food, and before we had refined sugar and flour, which is like, as we know, it stores really fast and really well. So then we would have, we wanted to conserve energy, which, as we're going to talk about this a little bit later, is about that's why habits are so good. And then the other part of the motivational triad is to seek pleasure, conserve energy, and there's one more. All of you that know me, why do I always forget them? I don't forget them. Conserve energy, seek pleasure, and stay safe. Okay, those are the three. Now, so this is what we're wired for. Now, one of the things that I want to explain a little bit about crisis. Okay, so then in the crisis fatigue, so if the motivational triad isn't working properly, then we will have, we go into our fight, flight, or freeze response. So so that's why it will help us. So these days, however, we're in a more constant state of emergency, which compels us to keep trying to adapt. So this is a quote from Dr. Zilmer as well. So this creates stress and anxiety, which is cumulative and contagious, and we feel we may be reaching our tipping point. So crisis fatigue is much like lifting too much weight. So consider a person lifting weight. Okay, so they're lifting, at first they can lift 200 pounds quite easily, But as repetitions increase, the the muscle loses its strength. And so the movement becomes more challenging, which then your form worsens, and eventually they fall to the lift. They can't lift that weight at all. So crisis fatigue is very similar. Now, another way I wanted to think about it is these are supposed to be glasses, by the way. So imagine so when we wake up in the morning, we have like stress. Okay. We have like get the kids off, or maybe there's like maybe there's a certain neighbor that's kind of noisy. Maybe there's just kind of this like low kind of buzzing stress of, I got to get something done, or you have to go in the car and do some errands. Like we just all kind of wake up, and this is just kind of there's just different stresses throughout the day. And that's okay. We can handle that. But now with Corona, it's like we wake up and we're already pretty stressed, because now we've got to wear the masks, and now we've got to do the sanitizing, and now we've got to do the distancing, and now we've got to maybe order our groceries online, and that's something we've never done before. And so the problem is we wake up and we're already here during the day, and we haven't even started our day. So if we have our baseline here, so I used to be a school teacher, and we talk about, and I also have 5 children. So this is something I have a lot of experience with. And so, and we all have experience with stress, but it would be interesting during the day, there would be kids that would, they have different stresses, and think about yourself, right? And we just keep adding more and more and more. And the problem is, and so if we aren't recognizing the stresses that we're having, we don't deal with them. And so the next thing we know, especially if we start our day up here already, and so here on a regular day, you'd have like 7 or 10 or 15 stress things that would happen, but you could kind of deal with it because you had more capacity here. Whereas if you start already up here, already super stressed out, which by the way, we're almost at a year now of Corona, because it's already first week of February, and Corona, everything shut down right middle of March. And so we can't handle the 15 things that we used to be able to handle because we're already up here. So my job is to help you be aware of what's actually going on. And so then you can now put a label on it. So then these things aren't just happening to you. You now have this conscious filter that you can work through. And we used to talk about anger mountain in my classroom, and I would talk about, okay, so you kind of see yourself, and at these different points, you have different body indications that's saying like, my heart's kind of beating. Oh, what does that mean? I'm kind of sweating, or I'm feeling like I want to leave. I want to, take off, like the fight, flight, or freeze, or you just like, you keep frozen. You don't know what to do. So I would actually teach my students how to recognize our body signals as we're going up the mountain, as we're building, and all these things are filling. So then when you get to the top of the mountain, you would explode. And so it's the same thing that's happening with us now, because now this is what's happening today, is so many of us are waking up and we're already like more than half full. And so we'll be triggered more often at grocery stores or doing errands. So is there as I'm explaining this in the chat, I wanted to hear what your thoughts are about that. So are you finding that you're having less patience? Maybe when you're doing errands, or you're having less patience with yourself, with family members, maybe when you're listening to the news. What's going on for you as you think about how you used to wake up pre-COVID and now how you're waking up with COVID? Okay. And how you are doing with your coping strategies. So I need to just open the chat. I have a couple of different screens here. Complete isolation for everyone. Yeah. So if you want to put that in the chat, that would be lovely. I always love to hear what's really going on with you. And by the way, I'm going to be sharing, and then If you, I really want to encourage someone to put any of you to raise your hand to get coached on any of these things. So if that is, I have these amazing tools as a life coach, and I would love to show what they look like. And so we have time in this webinar today you can be brave, you can raise your hand and get coached, and I can help you. Okay, so with this crisis fatigue, and as we know, Corona is a real thing. And one of the problems we have is that we kind of have this thought like it's going to go away. And so we get these hopes that things are going to be fine, and then it's not. And then we get like a new strain that's even worse. And now people are getting immunized, but then it's like we don't even have that certainty that things are going to be okay, because things kind of change. So again, it just kind of keeps feeding and just giving us more and more stress, so that our baseline of stress is so high that we're not able to cope with all the new things. Okay. Marlene said, life is 50-50. I try to remember that if I can't change the situation, no reason to worry about it. Right. So Marlene's been in my group, so she knows about this concept, and I'm going to talk about it today. Jody says, my husband thinks it's my job to find vaccines for us. I've spent so many hours and have not been able to get an appointment. I'm so frustrated with the vaccine process. And why is it all on me? Right. Okay. So we could probably do some coaching on that in a little bit, Jody. That would be a good thing to get coached on. I can do the model. All right. So you can see, even in those comments, signs and symptoms of crisis fatigue. So we've got anxiety, some depression going on. You're feeling like you're a little bit more low than you normally are. You're not really able to dig yourself out as quickly as you used to be able to. And there's a lot of like really feeling of like hopelessness. And so your sleep is affected. So how many of you are having a little bit more difficulty sleeping? Making decisions. How much harder is it to make a decision and then actually stay with the decision? Stick with it. Energy. How are your energy levels? And then what about if you were to say your general state of well-being, how would you rank it for yourself? Okay. All right. Now, this is the part. So by the way, this is a 2-part series. So I'm doing this one today, and then next Thursday, I'm going to be doing 5 other strategies. These ones are more concept-based with my life coaching. And then next week is more like real practical things, but these are very practical as well. So my husband is a dentist, and there is no sign that they will get a vaccine soon. We cannot arrange to get a vaccine in Canada. We have to wait until they decide you can have it. Right. Interesting. So that's another perspective as well, Jody, and others and you think about Trudy in England, and there's different levels of lockdown. That's the other part. When you think about this cup here and all the different stresses, because not only is it, we don't know, but they're changing the rules. So even now with Canada, in order to fly into Canada, they're doing, if you don't have a valid COVID test, and they don't like it, they're going to charge you $2,000, and they're going to do mandatory. They take you to an undisclosed area, and they basically keep you on lockdown for 2 whole weeks, and you pay $2,000 to be locked down. It just happened to my friend. Her son just came back, and they took him away. They didn't let him phone her. He's 20 years old, but still. And so then there's all these new stresses and all these new rules that we don't know about, and we're not sure, like, when are they going to change and how it's going to affect us. So vaccine is being rolled out to the oldest and the sickest first. Young, fit, and healthy will be last. Oh, so at least you know that part. Another thing that I wanted to share, there's different researchers that I read from. So crisis fatigue is not a clinical diagnosis. It is an increasingly common phenomenon. It is on the rise because we have been confronted with an invisible virus that is creating havoc politically, financially, in our workplace, and probably at home as well, and which we're all experiencing, aren't we? That was from Dr. Kilmer. And then Lori Ryland, she has a PhD and she's the chief clinical officer in New Jersey. She said that there has been an increase in the number of people seeking treatment who are reporting high levels of anxiety, depression, and hopelessness, which is linked to crisis fatigue. So one of the things to look out for, so I talked about like signs and symptoms, but if you feel like you can't focus or your energy levels are so low that it's hard to get motivated to manage everyday activities, or if you feel sad or overwhelmed, it could also be that you are angry and lashing out uncharacteristically. These are signs of crisis fatigue. So I am a professional quilter who has turned into a life coach. So I have my accreditation and I work full time, 40 hours a week. I have 21 one-on-one clients and I have an incredible group that is just, and they're all quilters. So that is what I do. And I've been coaching women through all of this Corona, and it has been fascinating for me to see what a difference the tools that I teach really do help them with. So the first thing that I'm going to teach you, so I'm going to teach you 5 concepts that are going to change not only the way you cope with this fatigue, but in general. So the first concept I'm going to teach you is about emotions, how it's really important for all of us to feel our emotions. We are given emotions to keep us safe and to let us know what's going on. So we have fear, and fear is good because if some weirdo is following us, we have fear, and then we know our senses are heightened. We got adrenaline. So we know that we should go and we should seek help. And we get this burst of energy to maybe move quicker than we would normally. And we just have this instinct that says, you need to go, you need to get help. So fear and any emotion is just a vibration in our body. It's like we have a thought and we have a physical reaction. Like our brains and our bodies are more connected than a lot of us will eat what we really allow that experience to happen. So fear is wonderful. Okay, it's great. It keeps us safe. It's amazing. Like if we're walking along a really skinny road and we have a child in our hand, it's good to have fear because we want to keep that child alive, because if they don't have any fear, which a lot of kids then we go down worry road. And guess what worry road has? It has billboards. And the billboards, what are car accidents or bad things happen, or they have all sorts of really negative things. It's like this little voice on your shoulder that says things like, this isn't good. You have to be careful. People, not everyone's honest. Not everyone is good. Not everyone is trustworthy. Okay. That's what worry. Those are the billboards. That's what they say. Don't forget, things could be really bad. And the problem is, if you keep going down this road and you keep seeing all these billboards that are saying all these horrible things, then guess what happens? You get to anxiety. Yeah, planes crash, right? And when you get to anxiety, this is actually when you go to your worst case scenario. Whoops, okay. This is a very fat marker. So this is when you go into your worst case scenario, okay? So for a lot of us, what would be the worst case scenario for Corona? What would you say? Someone dies alone in the hospital. They lose their job. Like, this is terrible. So the problem is when you go to your worst case scenario and you get stuck. You're totally stuck and you don't know any way out. And because you have been going along this road where everything is so terrible, you're not able to problem solve or any of that. So you're very stuck. But guess what? There's another road you can go down, and that's Hope Road. Okay. And Hope Road, they also have billboards. So what did the billboard say on Hope Road? Things will be okay. One of my favorite go-tos, this will be fun. Everything is figure outable. Like I would pick up my kids from school and they're like, Mom, this happened. I'm like, everything's figure outable. Or I forgot my wallet and I'm at the grocery store. I'm like, everything's figure outable. Okay. So everything's figure outable. I got this. I know how to solve problems. I can do hard things. I've figured things out in the past. I can figure it out again. I can solve problems. I always know how I can work things through. That's Hope Road. And so when you stay on Hope Road, where does that lead you to? Faith. Because you're like, you don't need to know the how. You don't need to know the how. And then the other part about these two scenarios, Worry Road is all about scarcity. It's like, there's not enough. This is terrible. Whereas Faith Road, it leads you to, there's like abundance. There's more than enough. We can do all sorts of things. And so when we can be abundant, that is like flourishing and it grows and it's so amazing. Okay. Whereas anxiety is like you're stuck and you shrink. Abundance is big. Okay. So I really want to remind you, so even though our brains are wired for, staying safe, seeking pleasure, and conserving energy, we have a higher brain. We have this amazing brain. We are the only species on this planet that can think about our thinking. We have this higher brain that can think about what's going on, and we can analyze things, and we can take inventory. We can do pros and cons. We can think about all those things. And so let's use our higher brain. Okay, so that brings me into the next one, is our brain juice. So I like to say brain juice, but some of us might think bandwidth. Okay. So if you want to go back to my glass analogy, here, that's a little bit better. We only have so much thinking power every single day. We do. And so when we only have so much thinking power, we can be strategic of how we're going to use that thinking power. So we get to decide what we want to do. So what are ways that we can reduce the wasting of the mind, our thinking power? So if we spend a lot of time watching the news, how much brain juice does that take up? So if we spend a lot of time watching negative, bickering kind of news reports, we're using a lot of our brain juice on trying to think about what's going on there. So another way to think about this, so think about this as our brain, okay? And we're going to talk a little bit about that here. But so half of our brain is positive and half of our brain is negative. And so when you're using your thinking power, how much of your thinking power is used on negative things and how much is used on positive things? Okay. So that is a really big part. I just want to make sure I keep I have some notes that I want to, okay. What else did I want to talk about with the brain juice? Oh yeah. So with the brain juice, that's why, this is really important. That's why having habits, healthy habits, is so important. Because if we have healthy habits, we just don't even think about it. So one of the things that I do with my clients is we talk about having no sugar and flour for the first 6 weeks. And it's always super interesting to see what happens because they just had these habits of like getting a sleeve of crackers or going to the pantry if you're bored. And so now your brain has to create some new habits. You have to break the old ones. Your brain's like, no, go to the closet, the cupboard, and get the crackers, because not only does it, we just know what to do, but it gave us a lot of extra energy that we could store. Because if there is a pandemic, then we could have lots of stored fat. But if you just like change something, now I have to use more energy to think of something else. Like, so I say things like, hey, instead of going to the pantry to get the sleeves, why don't we do a thought download? Or why don't we do like a worksheet and see what's really going on in our brain? And the brain is like, the lower brain is like, no, we want to conserve energy, remember? Okay, so that's a really important part. Okay, the next one is our coping skills. So what would you say are the ways that you cope with stress? So going along this part, there's negative ways and positive ways, okay? So negative skill, what are some negative coping strategies? Put it in the chat. So drinking, eating, online shopping. What are some other ones? Scrolling on your phone. What else? So alcohol. Oh, maybe how many people oversleep? Or they undersleep? One thing people do is they can binge. So we can do like binge TV, right? So sometimes if you don't sleep enough, then you're not as aware, and so that you're not as cognizant. So that's another way of coping. Okay. All right. So what are some positive coping skills? Have you ever thought of that? So it's kind of easy to go to the negative ones, but what about some positive ones? Right. So exercise. And even exercise is just like going outside, just actually breathing some fresh air, just taking in the environment. Planning. Love that, Deb. Yeah, you're like, guess what? I got a plan. Plan to fail, fail to plan. Right. Meditation. How often do we just sit and just be and breathing? One of the things I do with my clients is I actually teach them how to process any emotion. So we'll just start by breathing. We'll just get in tune with our body. We connect with our body. Even before I go to bed, sometimes if I'm having a hard time, I just like check in with my body. I'm like, hey, body. And I thank my body. I actually connect my brain to my body. And I remember the first time I was learning about doing that, like just like thanking your body. I was like, that is so weird. It just seems so weird. I'm like, but it is so true. We just, how often do we take our body for granted? Even if our body is like 50 pounds more than we want it to be. You know, how often do you say, hey, thank you, fingers? You know, I want to pick something up, and you always do it. And then you write and you communicate. Thank you, fingers. Thank you, arms. Whatever it is. Gratitude. Gratitude is one of, it's a fabulous way to cope positively. How often do we give ourselves the opportunity? So I really want you to spend some time here of asking yourself, how do I cope? And if I'm just coping over here, why am I not spending more time over here? One of the things that just just, oh, I love when my clients, especially I have a lot of clients, well, all my clients are like high achieving women. They've accomplished so much in their lives. But the problem is they've been run by their to-do list. Like their value comes from how much they accomplished on their to-do list, how many compliments they got from people, because a lot of the ladies I work with are perfectionists. And I have the most amazing book that I finally wrote, and it tells the 12 steps. It's a 12-step guide on how to recover from perfectionism. And so much of what's been holding them back is they care more about what other people think of them than what they think of themselves. And one of the things that's been super interesting as I've been working with my clients is a lot of they don't even realize how much a perfectionist they actually are. And so there's actually 11 questions that you can ask yourself, and you rate it. You rate yourself on that. And then I put you in the 3 categories. So if you're not a perfectionist, a medium perfectionist, or a big perfectionist. And then we go into each step. Like, so if you rated an 8 out of 10 in all or nothing, then you go to that step, and I have worksheets and I have information to help you work through why you're having that problem. And yeah, this book is gold. I use it all the time for my coaching with my clients, and it is available when you join my program. So that is that. So if you don't realize what's going on, then like spend some time. Oh, so what I was saying was, so many of my women are these high achieving women, and they run by their to-do list, but now they're learning they can just sit and relax and enjoy their life. And they can spend time on the couch in the middle afternoon and just read a book and feel so good about it, and just work on projects. And they don't have to be perfect, or that they can just start running their own life, and they have a lot more enjoyment. So now this one's a fun strategy. So this is talking about how do you describe the story about your life or about yourself? So if I was to open it up and say, hey, call on, listen to music, that's a good one, and dance. Oh, that's what I do. I actually dance. Did you know that? And sometimes I even go in my husband's car, who has really nice heated seats, and I put on it like a good song. And I just give myself like 5 minutes, and I'm like, oh, love this song. And I loved having heated seats. That's another one I do. It's super fun. Okay. So how do you tell your story about yourself? Like, I'm kind of lazy. I haven't really got myself organized, ever since I've been retired. I don't seem to get anything done anymore. Okay. Is that how you're telling the story about yourself? Or are you so this is what I want you to do right now. So I want you to just take like 1 minute. You don't put it in the chat. You don't need to. I don't want you to, unless you want to. But how would you describe how you're living your life now? Like, I'm super happy, everything is wonderful, or like, I don't really get very much done. I keep buying all this stuff and I never finish anything. Right? So how would you describe it? Okay. Now, did you know that we can retell the story of your past without changing anything? It's true. Yeah, sluggish and unmotivated, right? So let's take, for example, you're like, oh, I'm just so sluggish and unmotivated, and I try to get things done and things aren't that great, to I'm experiencing a lot of stress right now. We're on total lockdown. I don't get to see my granddaughter and my kids very often. And I'm having I'm having some difficulty getting going, but I'm also recognizing that it's really a good idea for me to not expect so much of myself and to give myself a lot more compassion. So I just plan an hour a day where I can just sit and do nothing. And then I plan another hour a day where I can just go on social media and or three times a day, I plan an hour where I can just connect with people. And it really does my heart good. Okay. Like, how different would it be if you could actually give yourself permission and have more compassion for yourself? So retelling the story, really key. And then the last thing I want to talk about, and Marlene talked about this a little bit already, but life is truly 50-50. It's supposed to be 50% happy and 50% negative. And so I like to think about those old-fashioned scales. And so to have a balanced life, right? That's what the scale is. To have a balanced life, we need to have 50% not so good and 50% good. But one of the things that we work on in my program and the work that I do is when the negative happens, we don't make a big deal of it. So I want you to imagine a beach ball, right? A big beach ball. And you don't want to, let's say the beach ball is like a negative emotion and you're like, I don't want to deal with it. So you're just trying to like push that beach ball under the water and keep it down. Like, it's hard. You have to spend a lot of energy and effort to keep that beach ball under the water because it's full of air and it's not supposed to be shoved in the water. So you're using your body and you're using all this effort. And so now when you avoid and resist that emotion, you're making it so much worse than it needs to be. So what we work on is we learn how to just accept, oh, this is just the negative. This is just the part of my day that things aren't quite going my way. Okay. Instead of like, everything is happening this is terrible. And why isn't anything ever work my way? And this is so frustrating. Can't I ever get anything right? So when you keep saying things like that, it just makes it worse and worse and worse. Okay. So we're going to work on balancing our life. We're going to retell the story. We're going to concentrate on positive coping strategies. We are going to be really selective of how we use the brain juice that we have, so our bandwidth, and we're going to be very careful. I like saying that I have a curated life. Like, this is, if I'm going to do a 1950s museum curation, I'm not going to let something from 1980 come into my museum. I'm only going to have 1950s. So I have a curated life. And so my brain, I need to be very careful. I have to have a filter deciding what's going to come in my brain and what's not. And what am I going to spend my time on doing and what's not. That's all. And then this one is huge, especially right now with the, when we talk about crisis fatigue, is it's okay to feel the fear. It's actually really important. Because if not, we go down worry road that says, don't forget things can be bad. Don't forget that, planes can crash and people can die all alone. And then we go to anxiety, which is staying in our worst case scenario. And then we're just stuck. Rather than going down hope road that says everything's figure outable, you got this. You can always try again. It's not the end of the world. Which will lead you to faith, knowing like, I don't have to know all the details. Like these, how many of you out there are control enthusiasts, right? This is when you try to be a control enthusiast. You try to control everything because you're like, I don't know if I could cope. But here you have faith. You're like, I don't need to know the how, but I know I figure things out. It's going to be fine. Okay. So we have 15 minutes for coaching. So this is the part of the free training where you can raise your hand. So on the bottom of the screen, there's a little yellow hand and you can raise it and I'll bring you onto the screen. So we'll see your face and I will coach you. How's that sound? What are your thoughts, people? Who's going to have courage? And it's, you know what? One of the things that I love about coaching is when you get coached, you benefit. But when other people watch other people getting coached, that is huge, because then they can start seeing how things are going, and they can see what's happening. They realize that they're not alone, and that other people are struggling as well. And that's one of the beautiful things about being a weight loss coach, is that weight loss it really is very shameful, and you feel very isolated, and you feel like you're broken, and you feel like you're not enough. And when you realize that there are so many other people that are struggling with the same things, it just feels really nice that you're not so alone. All right. Who's going to do it? Who's going to raise their hand? Love it. I was going to call on you, Jody, so I'm glad you did it. Okay, so I'm going to bring you up. Here we go. You have to unmute yourself and show your picture. Okay, Jody, I don't see you yet.
I know. I'm trying to fit. I'm on a different computer.
Oh yeah, that's what happened to me. I got a new computer and I wasn't able to share my screen, or I had actually made a video presentation. It didn't come over to this one. I was like, I know how to solve problems.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I'm going to tell you, I'm pretty computer savvy, and like, I am not seeing anywhere where I can put my picture up.
That's fine.
Okay.
We know that you're beautiful.
Oh yeah.
And the only thing I'd be disappointed in is, okay, by the way, Jody has really cool quilt backgrounds.
Oh.
And sometimes she has some pretty cool necklaces that I'm a little envious about. Okay. So we can do it this way. At least we can hear you, Jody. That's important. Okay. So tell me what's going on for you.
Okay. Well, I think first it was the worry and the fear with COVID, and it was all worry. And, I did get to a place of hope when they started coming out with the vaccine and talking about it. So I could take myself to that place. And I know, funny as it is, I'm pretty computer savvy. So I could get on my phone or the computer and search out appointments to get a vaccine. But like, they do keep changing the rules. Mm-hmm. And they keep, I live in Illinois, so I know all states are doing it different, but they keep changing the rules. So all different groups kind of keep getting bumped up, like I'm over 65. So we were supposed to kind of be in the next group. And now there's like hundreds of thousands of people in that group. And what I'm finding is specialty groups are kind of going right to the drugstores, and like whole businesses are being vaccinated, or all the teachers in a school district are being vaccinated, which is good because the kids need to get back. But I'm not sure a 30-year-old teacher needs it before a 65-year-old with some underlying health condition. So, I mean, everybody has their issues with it. But so I went from Hope Road back to Worry Road, because I'm pretty good at figuring things out, and I can't figure this out.
Right. Okay. So would you say your main thought is they keep changing the rules, or I can't figure it out?
Well, it's kind of both of those. Okay. I would say they keep changing the rules.
Okay. So when you have that thought, they keep changing the rules, how do you feel?
Well, it's very frustrating. And it makes me feel helpless.
Okay. So do you see what happened there? So every time we have a thought, we actually have a feeling associated with that thought. And so first she was feeling frustrated, but when she kind of dug a little bit more, it became hopeless.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So or is there any other feeling?
Well, I think with hopeless is sad for all the things everybody's going through. I can't see my granddaughter. I can't travel to them. They live out of state. And And yeah, so
Okay. So
so
when you have,
sad.
yeah, when you keep changing the rules, so there's like a hopelessness there.
Yes.
Okay. So when you feel hopeless, what do you do?
Well, I want to eat. I try not to eat.
So you want to eat, but you're
Yeah.
like, I just,
Sometimes I eat.
yeah.
Um,
Why do you actually want to eat? You want to eat for some comfort or
yes, yes.
distraction?
No, comfort.
Want to eat for comfort. You want that dopamine hit, right?
Right.
Because even though we know that food actually, the job of food is not to say, hey, it's okay, you're going to be fine. Like what actual comfort is, or like, here's a hopeful statistic, or
Right.
like food actually doesn't do that. It just gives us energy, right? And if we've eaten too much of it, then we store the energy, and now we have a stored
Right.
energy problem.
Mhm.
Okay. So you want to eat for comfort. What else do you do when you feel hopeless, when you have the thought they keep changing the rules?
So then I go online or on my phone or on a computer and start like uh, reading all the news reports about how and where you can go to get the vaccine. And, they make it sound like, hey, it's really easy. Go here and get it. And it's not easy.
Okay.
So I go online too much.
Okay. And so you're like constantly, frequently checking reports.
Yes.
So you're reading reports and you're checking the reports and you're checking new reports and then you're comparing them. And
Right.
okay, what else do you do?
Yeah. Well, I'm not, I usually get a lot done during the day, and I'm not getting anything done during the day because
Okay.
I'm just spinning my wheels with
Right. Okay.
everything.
So you're not doing any quilting
Well,
or,
I am, but not at the level I normally do.
oh, okay, that's really good. Not accomplishing the same level of quilting a day. Okay. And like, are you like you feel like you're kind of flipping around, like you're not really into one thing, you're kind of jumping around to different things?
Right. And I feel like I'm really crabby.
Oh, okay. So you're kind of crabby
Yeah.
and doing lots of little things, but not really finishing much.
Correct.
Okay. So then when you spend, okay, this is really important for all of you, especially those who don't even know what the model is. So when you spend a lot of time doing a lot of little things but not finishing anything, and you're being crabby, and you're not accomplishing the same level of quilting a day, you're frequently checking the reports, you're going online and reading different reports, you're going to food for comfort. When you're spending all your time doing this, what is the result that you're getting?
Well, I'm very anxious.
Yeah. What else are you doing?
Not getting what I want.
Yeah. So are you changing the rules for your own life?
Mm, Explain that a little more.
So like, did you wake up in the morning, you're like, hey, Jody, I'm not gonna finish a lot of things. I'm gonna be super crabby. I'm gonna like not really accomplish very much. I'm gonna eat for comfort, which is not even like what it's supposed to do. Food isn't
Right.
even supposed to do that. And I'm gonna go and spend a lot of time researching things that are super annoying. Like you didn't wake up in the morning with that plan, did you?
No, I did not. Yeah. But
Right.
that is what happens. Yeah.
Right. Right. So you had the thought they keep changing the rules,
Right.
but really you're like changing, like you're following the rules to have an unhappy life. And but what you didn't plan on, you didn't wake up purposely and say, I'm gonna have a really terrible day today. Right?
Right. Right.
So when I'm thinking about you spending all your time doing these things, you're like breaking the rules to having the happy life that you really wanted to have.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're not, okay, or maybe we could say not following the rules to having your own happy life. Now, I want all of you to realize this. So vaccine is just a circumstance. It is neutral. Everyone can agree that that's what it is. And we know that the vaccine isn't what's causing Jody to feel hopeless. And it's not the vaccine that's causing Jody to want to eat for comfort. And it's not the vaccine that's causing Jody to go online reading news reports and frequently checking reports and not accomplishing the same level of quilting a day. And it's not the vaccine that's causing her to be crabby. And it's not the vaccine that's causing her to do lots of little things and not finishing anything. And it actually isn't even the vaccine that's causing her to not follow the rules of having her own happy life. It's not that, because the vaccine is neutral. What's actually causing you all of these problems?
My feelings about it.
Well, it's your thought, right?
Yeah.
It had to start with a thought. The thought was, they keep changing the rules. And when you kept telling yourself that thought, you felt hopeless.
Right.
And remember, the feeling, that is the fuel. So when you walk around all day with this feeling of hopelessness, right?
It's very heavy.
Terrible.
Yes.
Right. So instead of going to, remember how we have the fear road? Yes. Instead of feeling hopeless and just letting yourself feel hopeless, you like kept hopeless on your back and you're like, worry, hopeless, everything's terrible. And then it goes to like, my husband's expecting me to do all of this. And why is it all on me? This is right. So you still have worry road with hopeless. But if we could just allow yourself to just experience and process hopelessness, then you can decide that you're like, oh, I don't have to know exactly everything, but I can just have faith that I'll figure it out because I'm pretty smart when the time is right.
Right.
Interesting, right?
Yeah. Right.
All right. So this, for everyone, this is called the unintentional model. Jody did not wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to just be like a real jerk to myself. And I have to say this for all of us who struggle with our weight, like you didn't intentionally wake up day after day and eat the chips or eat the cookies or eat the whatever. You didn't intend to do that. And one of the things that's keeping us back from losing the weight and really embracing that is that we need to come to peace with, I'm not broken. I'm not a fat slob. I'm not a terrible person. You didn't intend to do that. That was never your intention. You might have done some angry eating, like getting back at someone eating, because someone was rude to you at the bank. It's like, I'm going to go to Dairy Queen and have a, which just happened to me last week. The lady was so rude and my son was there and I was like, and I actually did want to go to Dairy Queen and get a Blizzard. I was like, this deserves a Whopper or something, right? So we don't intend to do these things to ourselves. But the problem is because we haven't learned to think about our thinking, we don't realize that a thought like this causes us to feel this. And when we do like the beach ball and we avoid and resist feeling hopeless, which isn't really the most fun feeling, then it causes us to do all these different actions that of course give us the result. All right. Any other questions, Jody?
No.
So how do you feel now?
Yeah, I'm going to go down that hope road instead.
Right. Yeah. And that's the beautiful thing, right? We can just turn that. They keep changing the rules and I know how to solve problems. Even that, right?
Right.
I know how to solve problems. So even if we changed your sentence to I know how to solve problems, then we can feel hopeful. And then when you feel hopeful, what kinds of actions do you take?
Well, I don't want to eat for comfort.
Right.
I don't want to do all those things. I won't go online all the time and read about this. Yeah.
You like make a date and you say, I'm going to go online for 20 minutes. And if I don't find anything, then I guess it's not my time yet.
Right.
And I'll go tomorrow at noon.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not wasting my time on that stuff because I know how to figure things out.
Yes.
cool, right?
Yes. Mhm.
All right, you're amazing. Thanks for raising your hand.
Welcome.
Okay, is there anyone else that would like coaching? I'm gonna, how do I do that? Rename? No. All right. Okay. Lower hand. Okay. All right. Well, our time is actually up. So that worked out perfectly. Okay. So anyone have any questions on anything, please direct message me. If you are interested in my program, we just started our first week and there are some more spaces available if you'd like. But I am here to help you in any way. So please feel free to reach out to me. And let's keep working on noticing our thoughts and creating the life that we really want. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.